If I had a chance to talk to Katt about anything, I would just ask him what's wrong. Just what's wrong. Let's go to that.
This the same Negro that hated on Bernie with this same thing. I didn't want to be a movie star. No, you couldn't be a movie star.
It felt like it was genuine. There are some people who have given, my dad his flowers now that he's dead, that I'm looking at like, doggone well, he wasn't doing it when he was alive. And that, not just famous people, just people all across. What I believe, the genuine love and respect that Katt Williams showed my father, it is so much appreciated. Much love and mad props, Katt Williams.
I really shouldn't have said nothing, because we not in the same league, dog.
Steve Harvey might have just picked the worst fight of his career. The second he tried to check Katt Williams and Boozy, the whole game flipped, fast. Because instead of backing down, those two came swinging right back, live, raw, and completely unfiltered for everyone to see. This wasn't your usual morning show laughter and suits moment. This was real heat spilling out in front of millions. What started off as a few slick jokes turned into an all-out verbal war. Comedy met the streets and the stage lights dimmed as tempers flared. It was legend versus rebellion, fame versus raw truth, and nobody was holding their tongue. You could feel the tension jumping through the screen, every line sharper than the last. And let's be clear, this wasn't some polished, TV-friendly Steve Harvey moment. Nope, this was the kind of face-off that makes headlines and burns timelines. Katt and Boozy didn't just clap back, they exploded. They tore the whole Hollywood mask right off. Every fake grin, every overblown ego, every bit of that we're all family nonsense, gone. Katt Williams and Boozy dragged the truth into the light and made it crystal clear who's real and who's just playing the part.
This is like Steve Harvey telling people he used to be homeless. That's my story. That's not his story. Steve Harvey wasn't never homeless.
This was the moment when two street-smart truth-tellers went head-to-head with one of the biggest names in entertainment, and for the first time in a long time, Steve Harvey blinked. Now let's break it down, because it all kicked off when Steve made what folks online are calling a verbal threat. Not in the streets, not with fists, but with that smooth talk he's famous for. On his show, on stage, and even in a few interviews, Steve started firing subtle shots, sharp enough to cut through the noise. He said some comedians and rappers were talking too much and warned that if anyone ever came at him sideways, he'd handle it like a man. That one line sent shockwaves through the scene. Fans started asking, who's he talking about? Because everyone knew exactly which loudmouth legends might take that personally. The tension was real and the clock was ticking. Everybody knew exactly who Steve was aiming at: Katt Williams and Boozy. There was no mystery, no guessing game. For months, Katt had been all over social media, going viral for dragging fake Hollywood energy through the mud. He was fearless, naming names and spitting the kind of truth most people whisper about behind closed doors. He'd already roasted Kevin Hart, Tiffany Haddish, and yes, Steve Harvey himself. Katt wasn't showing mercy to anyone he thought was a company man.
I have the #1 adult contemporary show, 25 to 54, in America. The Steve Harvey Morning Show. I'm at 112 markets. I got 9 million listeners. I'm controlled by FCC rules.
The type who smiles for cameras but plays puppet for power. Every time Katt spoke, the internet lit up and Hollywood got nervous. You could practically feel the tension building with every viral clip. So when Steve finally fired back, that was it. It was on. No turning back, no polite talk show peace offering. The whole world knew this wasn't just a disagreement. It was a full-blown showdown waiting to happen. The streets were watching, the fans were picking sides, and everyone could sense it. A war in comedy was about to explode. Now let's be real. Katt Williams was never the type to bite his tongue. That man's built different. He's not scared of a suit, a network, or any Hollywood heavyweight trying to flex their status. Katt said it himself loud and proud, "I ain't in Hollywood. I'm in the truth business," and he meant every word. So when Steve started talking slick about knocking out comedians who talk reckless, you already know Katt took that personal, real personal. Katt jumped online and lit it up. He said, "Steve, you're too old to be threatening folks. You're supposed to be wise, not wild." Then he hit him with the line that broke the internet. "Don't talk about knocking me out when you couldn't even stand up to your own barber." Boom! The crowd lost it. Social media went up in flames and people were replaying that clip like it was a championship knockout. But just when folks thought the smoke was starting to clear, Boozy jumped in. Lil Boozy saw that clip and said, "Nah, we not letting Steve slide on this one." That's when everything took a turn from funny to serious. Because when Boozy steps in, it's not for clout, it's for principle. The internet exploded again. Memes, reactions, and live rants everywhere. It wasn't just comedy beef anymore. It was turning into a cultural moment. Boozy and Katt, they go way back, like real ones from two different lanes who always saw eye to eye. Their bond wasn't about fame or status. It was about truth.
Man, I ain't got nothing to say about the Katt Williams situation. I don't know about nothing about that. I know he a real nigga to me. Like I say, bro, I came home, I ain't had nothing, man. Invited me to his concert. Got me front row seat. When I was leaving, gave me $15,000. That's real. Everybody else was screaming my name, all kind of celebrity. They ain't even give me a speak. They didn't even speak to me when I came. That man gave me $15,000. I ain't even know him, bro. That's all I could say. How many celebrities was hollering free Boozy? When I saw him, they ain't even acknowledge me. They gave me $15,000. Doing that. He did that from the heart, man. He knew what I had been through, bro. The man knew what I had been through, bro. I'll never forget that. When I see him, I'm definitely gonna bless him, bro. And I keep 15, 20 in my pocket at all times.
Both of them built their names off saying what everyone else was too scared to say. No filters, no PR polish, just straight up honesty that cut deep. So when Boozy saw Steve Harvey trying to flex like he was some kind of street boss, he wasn't about to let that slide. No way. Boozy hit that go live button and the energy shifted instantly. The man was fired up and you could feel it through the screen. He said, "Steve Harvey don't scare nobody. He's a talk show host, man. He ain't cut like that." Then Boozy dropped the hammer. "You threatening comedians and rappers cause you mad folks see through the act. You Hollywood now, bro. We real ones." The internet went crazy. Comment sections turned into battlegrounds. Some people defending Steve's legacy, others riding with Boozy and Katt. It was like two worlds colliding. Old school class versus raw, unfiltered truth. And Boozy wasn't stuttering. He meant every single word he said. You can't threaten what's real. That's exactly the energy Boozy came with. And just like that, it turned into Boozy and Katt versus Steve Harvey, live and loud for the whole internet to witness. It was a digital showdown. Comedian versus icon, truth versus polish, and every second had fans glued to their screens. But let's rewind for a minute because this beef didn't just pop out of nowhere. There's a long trail of smoke behind it, and it goes way deeper than one slick comment.
He stopped stand-up because he got in a comedy battle called the Championship of Stand-Up Comedy with one Katt Williams in Detroit in front of 10,000 people and lost because Katt Williams said he was actually bald and that was a wig.
Katt made a concert out of just verbally abusing Steve Harvey.
That nigga should have talked about me the way I'm finna talk about his bitch, man.
Steve Harvey should have never did that. He should have just did the show and not called it a battle and all that. Because it's hard for you to step in a ring that you're not used to. Okay? Steve Harvey is not used to the Katt Williams ring. You can't step in Muhammad Ali's ring if you is a wrestler and not a boxer.
Katt Williams has been calling out Steve for years. This feud's got roots. Katt's been saying from day one that Steve wasn't as real as he liked to act. He's accused Steve of selling out, stealing jokes, and pretending to be a mentor while quietly blocking up-and-coming comedians from getting their shine. And the wildest part? Katt said it on camera. Back in 2018, during one of his most viral interviews, Katt looked straight into the mic and said, "Steve Harvey's the type who will shake your hand and steal your punchline." That line spread through the industry like wildfire. Ever since then, that tension's been sitting, waiting, just one spark away from exploding. And yeah, people laughed when Katt said it, but he wasn't cracking jokes that day. He meant every single word. Katt's always seen himself as the real one in comedy. the people's voice, the one who steps on stage and says what everyone else is too scared to say. No script, no sponsors, just truth with the mic in his hand. Steve, on the other hand, plays a whole different game. He's the face of corporate comedy. Clean, polished, safe, and network approved.
Sometimes the oppositions comes from the most unsuspecting places. Sometimes, man, you gonna get blindsided. But you gotta understand how the devil works, man. The devil is evil. He don't fight fair. This thing in life, that's not fair what they saying about me. That's not fair what they doing about me. And it wasn't fair how they did Jesus, but they did it anyway. You are not going to get away through this thing called life without opposition. But let me say this though. Be careful when you hear something that's laid out to be the truth, and because the person that's telling you what they say is true is speaking eloquently, don't be deceived by that. There are some people who know how to lie so well. They know how to sprinkle in just enough truth and wrap it inside their lives where they got you thinking that somebody telling the truth. Beware of that, people. You can't be righteous and negative at the same time.
The kind that keeps executives smiling but doesn't always keep it real with the streets. And that's where the tensions always live, right between authenticity and image. Katt never vibed with the idea of bowing down to Hollywood rules, and Steve never liked being called out for it. Now toss Boozy into that mix and boom, you've just poured gasoline on a fire that was already burning. Boozy doesn't do Hollywood either. He doesn't kiss rings, he doesn't play politics, and he's definitely not scared to speak his mind. Over the last few years, he's built his name on raw honesty, sometimes messy, always real. So when this triangle formed, Katt, Boozy, and Steve, it was only a matter of time before sparks turned into an inferno. Steve Harvey's been out here for years preaching morals on TV, dropping relationship advice, life lessons, and sermons like he's the new Dr. Phil for Black America. He's built a whole brand around being the wise, suited-up father figure telling folks how to love, live, and level up. But Boozy, he wasn't buying none of it. Boozy went live and said straight up, Steve Harvey be talking about how to keep a woman like he ain't been divorced, bro. Stop acting like a pastor and just be real with folks. That line hit hard. The internet lit up instantly, some people laughing, others clutching pearls. Boozy wasn't trying to be mean, he was just calling out what he saw as fake wisdom, those polished sound bites that didn't match the reality behind the scenes. When Steve heard that, though, oh, he took it as pure disrespect. You could see it in his interviews, the way his tone shifted, the way he started talking slicker, and that's when he dropped the line that set everything off. He said, if these little dudes keep my name in their mouth, I might have to teach them how grown men handle things. That one sentence flipped the whole internet upside down. Fans were like, wait, did he just threaten Boozy and Katt? And from that moment, the feud turned personal, loud, and way too real for daytime TV. He thought he was playing it smooth for the average listener, trying to frame it like a comeback that made sense to everyone. But what sounded clever to some landed like a straight-up threat to Boozy and Katt, and that changed everything. They went live and the whole thing turned chaotic in minutes. Boozy sat in his car, puffing and speaking raw straight to the camera, no filter, no edits. Katt was in another city, calm and surgical with his words, and together they set the tone. Boozy kicked it off loud and clear. Steve, stop capping, man. You ain't no street dude, you a TV man. That line cut through the noise and turned casual talk into a real challenge. Boozy kept pressing. You ain't about to handle nothing but a camera, talking about knocking folks out. You better knock out them weak jokes instead. His energy was blunt and unafraid. Then Katt slid in smooth, voice low like a whisper but deadly precise. Brother Steve, you're too old to be fighting people who never disrespected you. I called you out cause you fake, not cause I hate. There's a difference. When those two teamed up like that, it stopped being a TV spat and became a cultural moment, raw, public, and impossible to ignore. Katt paused, locked eyes with the camera, and said it slow, steady, and powerful. You can't knock me out, Steve. Not in comedy, not in life, not even in spirit. So stop swinging for headlines. Boom, instant chaos. The chat went wild. Comments flying, hearts flooding the screen, fans yelling, choosing sides. It was digital mayhem. And even though Steve never hopped on that live, the internet did what it does best. Those clips spread like wildfire. Everyone was talking. Some folks were like, wait, is Steve Harvey really threatening people now? Others were questioning, why does Katt always call people fake? And Boozy, man, Boozy just said out loud what millions had been whispering for years. Then it got even crazier. Other comedians started jumping in. Some defended Steve, saying he's an OG, he earned that respect, while others backed Katt and Boozy, saying they're just telling the truth, nobody else is brave enough to say. The internet split right down the middle. But here's the thing, this wasn't just about words anymore. This was about power, about who really controls the culture, who gets to speak freely, and who gets silenced when they stop playing nice. Behind all the jokes, the threats, and the lives, there was a war for respect brewing, and it was getting uglier by the minute. See, here's where things get real deep. Steve Harvey doesn't just have fame, he's got power, connections, platforms, whole networks that move when he speaks. He's Hollywood's golden standard, sharply dressed, well-connected, and respected in all the right rooms. But Katt and Boozy, they got something Steve can't buy. The people, the streets, the culture that built them and rides with them no matter what. That's why this whole thing blew up the way it did. It wasn't just a comedy clash, it was a culture war. It was about who really gets to speak for the people, the polished preacher or the raw, unfiltered truth teller. So when Steve dropped that knock you out line, it didn't sound like regular trash talk. It hit like a warning shot from the old guard trying to silence the new. Steve stands for that old Hollywood mindset, the belief in gatekeeping, keeping the machine running smooth, protecting the system no matter who gets left behind. But Katt and Boozy, they're the rebellion. They break the rules, say the things nobody else will, and shine a light on the fake. And when those two worlds collide, corporate control versus street authenticity, it gets messy. Because Steve's whole image depends on being respected, polished, and untouchable. But the moment that armor starts cracking, the truth starts leaking, and the people always notice. Katt and Boozy's whole image runs on one thing, being real. That's their brand, their armor, and their power. So when the real ones call out the respected ones, somebody's image is bound to crack. And that's exactly what started happening to Steve. Suddenly, clips from his radio show began going viral, showing him looking tense, choosing his words too carefully. Fans started whispering, "Steve looks nervous. Steve sounds guilty," and that energy spread fast. Meanwhile, Katt and Boozy were everywhere. Their names dominated Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, you name it. Fans were calling them the Truth Squad, saying they finally said what everyone else had been thinking. One viral tweet read, "Boozy and Katt just tag team Steve Harvey like it's the culture versus the corporation." Another said, "Steve Harvey talked too much about God to be out here threatening folks." And that one hit deep. That's when the tide started to shift. For years, Steve had been the symbol of wisdom, the smooth-talking father figure who always knew the right thing to say. But now, those same fans who once praised his calm voice and life lessons were questioning his motives. People started wondering if all those morals and messages were just part of the act. The internet turned the spotlight on Steve, and this time, it wasn't about his comedy, and it was about his character. Fans started asking the question nobody ever dared to before: is Steve Harvey really humble, or is he just hiding his pride behind that fancy suit and smooth talk? The internet was buzzing, and Boozy wasn't done yet. A few days later, he doubled down hard, coming back louder than ever. He said, "Ain't no man gonna threaten me and get away with it. I don't care who you are, comedian, preacher, president. You say my name, I'm responding, and I stand on that." That alone had the internet lit. But then Boozy dropped a line that hit way deeper than anyone expected. He said, "These TV dudes think they untouchable because they on camera every day. But we the ones people really listen to." Boom! That sentence echoed through social media like a warning shot. And right there, that's the heart of this whole feud. Because this isn't just about Steve Harvey versus Katt Williams and Boozy. This is authenticity versus image. It's the battle between the polished stage and the raw streets. It's about who really owns the mic, who the culture truly rides for, and who's just performing for applause. Steve represents the establishment, the polished voice with corporate backing. Katt and Boozy, they're the voice of the unfiltered truth, the people who don't need permission to speak. And when those two worlds collide, somebody's gotta fall. And it's starting to look like that shiny suit might not protect Steve this time. The real question became, who really holds the power? The one with the stage or the one with the truth? Katt Williams didn't need to shout to make noise. He stayed calm, but every word he dropped sliced clean through the fake. He said, "I don't fight men who wear makeup on camera. I fight hypocrisy." Boom! That line shut everything down. The comments exploded instantly. Fire emojis everywhere. Fans cheering, "He ain't lying." Then Katt added the dagger that made the whole internet stop. Steve Harvey once told me I'd never last in Hollywood because I was too honest. Guess what? I'm still here, and I didn't have to sell my soul to stay. That one hit deep. It was poetic, painful, and powerful all at once. Because deep down, everyone knew Katt was right. He might not have Hollywood's stamp of approval, but he's got something way stronger, the people's respect. He survived cancellations, chaos, and the system trying to box him out, but he's still standing tall and still talking his talk. By the end of the week, this story was everywhere. Blogs, gossip pages, YouTube channels, and radio hosts couldn't stop talking about it. It wasn't just a feud anymore. It had turned into a movement, a conversation about truth, fame, and who's really built to last when the cameras turn off. Steve Harvey still hadn't said much publicly, but word started leaking from people close to him. They claimed he was disappointed and done, responding to childish nonsense. But honestly, that silence said everything. Because if Steve really had that old school confidence he always preaches about, he would have faced Katt and Boozy head on, man to man. Instead, he went quiet, and the internet took that quiet as defeat. Within hours, the memes started flying like wildfire. Steve's face got photoshopped with oversized boxing gloves and captions like, "Still waiting for the knockout." Katt's picture was everywhere with "still undefeated" stamped across it in bold red letters, and Boozy's quote, "the streets talking," was plastered over microphones and trending across social media. It wasn't just gossip anymore, it was a cultural moment. People were calling it the day the underdogs checked the system, because that's exactly what it felt like. Two raw voices from the culture standing up to the Hollywood machine in real time, and the people loved it. Now let's keep it real. All three of these men are legends in their own lanes. Steve's the polished veteran, Katt's the rebel poet of comedy, and Boozy's the street preacher who never filters his truth. But in this round, the streets were loud, the truth hit harder, and the silence from Steve, it spoke louder than any punchline ever could. Steve paved the way, no doubt about it. Katt spoke the truth, and Boozy, he spoke for the people. But once ego enters the chat, nobody walks away clean. That's when even D.L. Hewley jumped in during a podcast saying, "This is what happens when grown men stop communicating and start performing." And maybe he had a point, but honestly, fans didn't care about peace or apologies. They were glued to the chaos. They wanted drama, they wanted honesty, and Boozy and Katt gave them both in full force. Social media was on fire, comment sections blowing up, clips going viral every hour. Everyone was waiting, refreshing timelines, asking the same question: what happens next? Maybe Steve Harvey finally claps back. Maybe he stays silent. Maybe they meet behind closed doors and settle it like men. But no matter what happens, one thing's for sure. This whole situation exposed something deeper than a feud. The people are done with fake wisdom. They don't want polished speeches or talk show sermons anymore. They want real voices. They want the truth that hits raw, not the version that's been rehearsed for ratings. They want energy, not ego, heart, not headlines. And Katt and Boozy just reminded everyone what happens when the truth walks into the same room as image. It shakes the whole industry to its core. And that's exactly what Katt and Boozy delivered: realness. By the end of it all, the internet had already crowned them the winners. Not because they screamed the loudest or threw the hardest punches, but because they stood their ground and never folded. Boozy said it best: "You can't threaten what's real. You can only expose yourself trying." And that's exactly what went down. Steve Harvey tried to flex that old school authority, like his reputation alone could silence the storm, but it completely backfired. Because this new generation, they don't bow down to polished power anymore. They ride with the ones who keep it raw, the ones who speak straight from the soul, no filters, no sponsors, no fear. So yeah, Steve might have tried to threaten Katt Williams and Boozy, but what he didn't realize is you can't threaten the truth. When you come for two men who built their entire names on honesty, you're not just fighting them, you're standing against the people who believe in what they represent. And when that happens, the whole world's gonna see the difference between who's real and who's rehearsed. The lines have been drawn. Hollywood polish versus street authenticity. Now the question is, was Steve out of line for throwing that threat? Or did Katt and Boozy take it too far by going public? Either way, one thing's certain. The truth always wins. And this battle just proved it loud and clear. And just like that, the saga hit its breaking point. What started as slick talk turned into one of the rawest showdowns the culture's seen in years. No scripts, no PR cleanup, just three giants standing on different sides of truth. Katt Williams came with precision, Boozy came with fire, and Steve Harvey, well, his silence said more than any punchline could ever deliver. But beyond the laughs, the memes, and the chaos, this whole story revealed something bigger. It's not just about celebrity drama, it's about power versus people, the system versus the streets, and image versus authenticity. Steve represents the polished gatekeepers of old Hollywood, the ones who built their empire on perfection. But Katt and Boosie, they're the voice of the unfiltered generation, the ones tired of being told what's appropriate to say. They reminded everyone that in today's world, truth travels faster than PR spin, and real always outshines rehearse. The culture's shifting. People want voices they can trust, not scripts they can predict. So as the dust settles, the question still stands. Can Hollywood handle honesty? Or will more stars step out from behind their media masks and speak raw like Katt and Boozy did? One thing's for sure, this ain't over. The streets are talking, the culture's watching, and the truth just took center stage. Stay locked in with BarzBuzz, cause when the next chapter drops, you already know we'll have every detail, every clip, and every word that shakes the industry. If this saga had you shook, wait till you see what's next. You already know what it is. BarzBuzz got the real, raw, and unfiltered breakdowns. So don't forget to like, subscribe, drop a comment, and share this with someone who needs to catch up.